like to introduce you to Amy Fowler Stadler. I first met Amy about 10 years ago. She came to my office when I was still in the corporate world, and she came to meet me just as a fellow professional woman. That's one of the things I love about Amy is that she's a master connector. And in fact, she puts together one of the best networking events of all of Denver has. It's called Women in Leadership that takes place every fall. If you're not on our list to find out about that invitation, you should definitely get on her list because it sells out every year, and it's really a fabulous place for women to come and connect together. So that's one of the things I love about Amy is that she is a master connector. In addition, I really admire her ability to get things done and her passion for making a difference. And right now, we sit on a Colorado leadership board for the American Diabetes Association together. And so I get to see her in action all the time, and she's just amazing in what she makes happen. Amy's co-founder of Lewis and Fowler. In 2002, she started this company. It's a small consultancy firm that serves Fortune 500 companies. Today, her clients benefit from her 25-plus years in the business and technology industry. She has a passion for strategy, technology solutions, IT performance measurement, and program recovery. And she helps to solve really complex problems for these companies. So with that, I'd like to welcome you, Amy, and say hello and welcome to this interview.
Hello. Thanks for the great introduction.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So I am wanting to just dive right into some of these questions and hear about what's shaped your life, how you've gotten to where you've gotten, and just hear some of your personal stories. To start with, I wanted to start with is there a defining time or situation in your life that really just shaped your life, that changed the path you were on, the journey you were on, and if so, what was that and how did that change things for you?
Sure. I would say I had a couple of those, but I'd say probably the biggest one when I think about it is when I was in high school, my father died. It affected me in many ways, but one of the ways it affected me is not only going through that trauma, I watched my mother go through that trauma. My mom had always wanted us to be independent women, and then I watched her have to go through trying to sort out, after being married for 25 years in that generation, very common, working for my dad, trying to figure out where she was going to go next. And it instantly made me also have to figure out how to be more independent. And so I would say that event for sure affected me. I knew after several years of that I wanted to be able to be independent, be able to sustain myself, be able to solve whatever the problem was. So, and when you have a tragedy like that early on in your life,
right.
Almost
How old
everything
were you,
else
Amy?
Here, right?
How old were you?
I think 15 or 16.
Okay.
I always
so
joke,
really,
I was telling my family recently, I've kind of blurred that, and believe it or not, a lot of that, for whatever reason, in my memory, I don't have it. And I think part of that was probably my coping
right,
as
right.
a teenager of trying to cope
right.
with that. It was
that
fairly
off.
tragic. It was fairly quick when it happened, and so it wasn't as though it was an expected event. It occurred over kind of a month period of time from the time he became ill to the time he passed away. And so, of course, you can imagine that was not, in the cards and planned for. So I'd say that was one of the biggest ones. My second one, I would
just watching your mom kind of readjust what she was doing and make her, go down this journey and this path for a path that she wasn't planning on being on, right?
Correct, and really kicking into survival mode, right?
Okay, okay. And so that brought your independence and that really solid base for you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
And then I would say I have one other thing that really happened that changed my life. I would say, obviously, I was working for large Fortune 500 companies. I had really never thought about starting my own company. I had a buddy who, when I moved to Colorado, went over to a large consulting firm and called me one day and said, Amy, you have to come over here. It's a billion-dollar entrepreneur company. You'll love it. You absolutely have to. And I did. And it obviously changed my whole career direction completely. I was planning on going down one route, and now I've totally, turned another. I went into the consulting business, and then, of course, now have had my own consulting firm for 12 years. So that definitely, those two were probably the two biggest things that affected my life.
How did you go about, what happened when you decided to leave the big consulting firm and start your own?
Well, actually, it's kind of an interesting story. I had a person who was my customer, and if you kind of pay attention to our company name, his name was Kevin Lewis. I called him and said, hey, I'm going to start a new consulting firm. It was the right time. People started asking me when I was going to do it, and I said, can I come work for you? And he was working at a big telco company at the time. I said, but I'm telling you right now, I'm going to leave for sure, and within a year, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to start a company. And he said, no problem. Come over. I'll hire you. 3 months later, while he was on vacation, I got laid off. And so, as you can imagine, I wasn't quite ready to start myself up. But you know what? I had kind of a short period of time, and I said, you know what? It's now or never. And I did it. I actually went into business with a different partner. It turned out to be really disastrous, did not work out well. And I actually called the person who was my customer and my boss, Kevin Lewis, and said, hey, I think you'd be a great partner. And kind of the rest is history. So he and I have been business partners for 12 years now. So that definitely.
Oh, I like that. I like that. And it's interesting how, again, it's like we get dealt these cards. You got laid off. You weren't really anticipating it. And you start to make this decision of where do I go? What direction do I take this? And how it unfolds for you, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. So it had to take a lot of courage for you to make those calls, to reach out and say, I'm calling you as my customer. You're my customer, but I would like to do this. Was that how did you tap into that courage?
For me, it's funny because I never really feel like I'm taking some big risks. For when I said, well, I have my education, I had many years of experience in the industry, so I kind of took what I call the Dale Carnegie approach of what's the worst thing that's going to happen. If it wasn't successful, I said, well, I'll just go back to kind of corporate America, Fortune 500 companies and go do that. But I said, well, what's the best thing that could happen, right? It could actually work, and here we are. So
right.
I don't really always think of people ask me a lot, do you feel like you're a big risk taker or you had to have a lot of courage? And I really didn't even think about it. Right, I just was, okay, what am I going to do and how am I going to get there? And I didn't even cross my mind to think about it.
Right. And I think, just that thinking about that, as you said, what's the worst thing that can happen? So often if we ask ourselves when we run into that fearful place, if we ask ourselves, what's the worst thing that can happen, the answer is usually it's not something that really is, there's always another option, right?
Correct. Right.
Yeah. So I like that. What about, if you had an opportunity to bring a piece of advice to a special woman in your life, be she a daughter, a niece, or someone else really you're close to, what guiding pearls of wisdom would you share with her, and other young emerging leaders?
I think there's probably a couple of pearls, but one of them for sure would be know that you can do whatever you want, no matter what anybody says, no matter whether you think you can't do it. Be confident that if it's something you're passionate about or you're interested about, go try to do that, because I've seen and talked to lots of women, right, and lots of girls, and one of the biggest issues of them achieving whatever it is their own self-confidence that they can accomplish it. And sometimes people have, told them, oh, you're never going to make it. I actually had a professor, I've told this story a few times, my last year in college, she told me I was never going to make it in the technology industry.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of interesting. Just kind of FYI, since then I've been nominated to the Hall of Fame at my university. So just think if I had listened to that guy.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't listen to that guy. In fact, what he did was he drove me when I got out of college. I was out to prove that guy wrong.
Yeah.
So it actually motivated me instead of demotivating me. But I think a lot of people can get demotivated along the way for whatever reason. A lot of it's their own self-confidence of whether they can do it. And so I think for any young girl trying to figure it out, whether she wants to be in IT or engineering or a doctor or a teacher or whatever she wants to do, there's a path to get there. There's always a path.
Yeah. And how did you choose technology as your path? What was the guiding factor there for you?
Well, it's kind of a funny story, too. It wasn't really planned. I was going to a local community college first before I went to university, and it was back when it was called data processing. And one of the things you had to do was take a logic test. So my girlfriend and I said, we think we're logical. And so we went and took this test. Well, long story short, we finished the test in an incredible short amount of time, and so they absolutely accepted us into that business school. But at the same time, I was working at a hospital. I actually thought I wanted to be a doctor. So I was working in a pharmacy. I was a pharmacy technician all through high school, and I was entering all kinds of drug charges to customers through a computer. Well, if you remember back then, it was kind of a green screen, old school. So
Yep.
I always kept saying there must be a better way. So it was kind of a combination of my on-the-job seeing something related to technology and then just taking a chance because I really had no clue what I wanted to do.
Right.
Taking that test and going, okay, well, I guess that's what I'm going to do. So then, it just kind of happened circumstantial, right? Things happened and it just ended up having me go that way. And my girlfriend also is still in technology. Both of us still are.
Okay, and you tapped into some strengths right there. What were some of those core strengths of yours that you discovered in that logic space?
Well, I would say I think it still goes back to thinking I can solve anything, right? It goes back to being confident that you have the skills, or if I don't know the skills, I always joke with our consultants, hey, if you don't know the skills, go read a book and, now you can have the skills. So just really it goes back to that confidence that you can solve for anything. And, logic is also solving logic, right, being analytical. So, and recognizing that. And
and recognizing you have those skills.
Correct.
I think so often people don't always know what strengths that they have or what talents that they have. They know where they might be drawn into, what areas that they might be intrigued with, but really tapping into knowing what your strengths and your gifts are.
And being willing to do something about the things you don't know. So I've had a company now for 12 years. Boy, there are certainly things I love to do. There are certainly things I don't love to do. And so, and also, I'm not that good at it. And so as soon as you recognize what you're not good at, you figure out how to bring people around you that are. I think that's really important for leaders. And recognizing and acknowledging it, right? I'll be like, oh, man, I can do that, but that is not my best quality. Let's have somebody else do that. And not having any problem. Giving that away, so to speak.
Absolutely, because then you can really focus your time and effort on the things that you're great at.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I know some of the things that you do really well is you mentor and you guide women. I mean, with your Women in Leadership event that you have every year, it is about guiding and mentoring women in the business community. I mean, you bring excellent speakers to the panels, and every time I go to that event, I learn something new. So I really enjoy doing that. But tell me a little bit about your philosophy and what we as professional women should be doing to mentor and guide women today.
Sure. I mean, first of all, my number one thing I would tell all people and all women especially is that you need to help anybody. I had a mentor early on who was my customer, and I think I showed up at her office kind of deer in the headlights, and she took me under her wing. She was my customer. I wasn't, I didn't work for her as an employee, and she reached out and did that to me, and that's what I tell all women. I mean, I always joke, if there's the group of what I call the icky group, you don't want those people around you, right? Because there are so many people that will be helpful. So when we started this event in Colorado, we started on our network, and we still do it as a network event. We also started it in Arizona 10 years ago, and when I first went to go do that event, I said, you guys, I don't know anybody in Arizona. How are we going to, get a group of women and start this forum? And I called up a woman completely cold, and Donna, you know who you are, and what she did was incredible. She said, you know what, Amy, I'd love to help you. Do you need my desk? Do you need my office? I'll give you my whole list of contacts. She just completely opened the door, and that year we were able to get 125 women at that event. And if it weren't for Donna, I don't know how that would have fostered it. Now, of course, it's no problem. 10 years later, I know tons of people in Arizona as well as Colorado, but it was really that attitude of helping. And I always tell people, I will help you no matter what. It might not totally be on the time you want it to be, but I absolutely will help you. It could be asking a question about, something I know or a job or whatever it is, but I just tell people that can never be a wrong thing to do. It can never, ever be bad for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I saw that in you the very first time we met, and which was probably 10 years ago. And I appreciate that passion that you have for that and making a difference to women in that outreach and that willingness to just say, what can I do? And I think we all can learn from that. I think I think of over the years the women that have opened their doors to me personally and looked for ways to help, and then when I am able to turn around and give that back to others, it feels really good.
Agreed. No, I agree. Yeah. And I think, I help anybody regardless of gender, but I think for women sometimes to have another female that they maybe feel more comfortable reaching out to, I want them to do it, right? So I always tell, if you can find somebody who's friendly, whatever that friendly means to you, start there because it's always easier. I mean, when I do sales, right, I do sales and consulting, and so when I started selling, I always told people, I am not an A sales player, but you know what? I'm good at relationships, and I can build relationships with people, and I will tell you, I have customers who have become friends. I have people that were not customers that will call me 2 years later and remember the conversation we had. I've helped people get jobs that I was actually trying to call on, and so it's really that mix of that, and that's the fun part. Right? That's really the fun part of doing what we do, meeting interesting people and helping and see people grow. Here in our own company, I definitely try to help the women that we hire. I'm always willing to grab lunch, whatever it is, take 5 minutes to talk about whatever their issue is, whether it's personal or work or whatever, so that they don't feel uncomfortable talking to me about it. So I try to cover all the bases there and just really be open to it. If you're open to it, people sense that.
Nice. Nice. So who are your personal heroes, and how have they made a difference in your life when you think about people that have reached out to help you?
Sure. I mean, I definitely would say the person I mentioned earlier, her name was Peggy Kay. She was initially a customer of mine. I went in and started to work for her, and quickly she started helping me meet people. I was kind of dropped there from my consulting firm and said, hey, go grow this account. Of course, I really had no idea what I was doing, but as I always say, fake it till you make it, right? I was faking it, and she helped me incredibly. And I can tell you, fast forward, I also watched Peggy later really struggle. She ended up having cancer, and she subsequently died. But I watched her journey through that, and even through her journey, she always made time for me. And of course, I always made time for her, but she took me under her wing, and she had no reason why she had to do that. So I always appreciate her and how she was so giving for what I call for no good reason, right, other than to help me. And so I always think of her all the time. Okay. She really made a difference. And even Donna that I mentioned, the fact that when we went to Arizona that she was so willing to help me, and just whatever it took to help us get it off the ground with no questions asked, And actually I have so many, I call these women leaders to do these events out of the blue. They don't know me. I just talked to a woman today. She's the CFO of a company. I said, I know you don't know me, but, I'm calling you to see if you want to be part of this panel, and these women trust me just because. And so all of those women, I always say every time we go to these events, well, look at all these rock star women, because they're people who just are open to it. And so I see that almost daily, which is fun for me.
Right, absolutely. So your life has got to be just crazy busy. Running your own company, all of the nonprofit work that you do, kids, just all the stuff going on. So whose shoulders do you stand on just to be able to see above all the craziness of it?
Well, I would definitely say my husband, he's a great rock. He's my rock for sure. He helps me. He's very calm. He's very calming. So when I'm crazy and, like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? He's calming. My kids, I learn a lot from my kids. I've had to learn a lot of patience. I wouldn't necessarily call patience one of my best qualities.
And your kids are what ages?
11, 14, and I have two step-kids that are 21 and 23, and I learned from all of them,
right?
Different things. And so I definitely, there. And then I have a group of friends that I definitely turn to for advice, and then I have a pretty big group of people that when I have a specific something that I'm trying to sort through, if I call them up, hey, can I have lunch with you? Can I talk to you on the phone? I really spread that out pretty dramatically. And then, of course, all my extended family, my siblings, my mother, and so I definitely reach out to them as well.
Right. So that it takes a village is true, right?
Oh, I would agree. Yeah, it definitely takes a village.
Yeah, and at anyone's journey, and I don't care which angle you're coming at it, it's like, tapping back out into the people around you we all need to support one another in different aspects of our lives, and whether it's our spouses, whether it's our friends, it is that village that connected village that helps people really thrive.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. How do you take care of you? In the midst of all of that?
I think that I'm actually pretty good at that. I have always been big into fitness, so running is my thing, and I think that as anybody who runs any long distance, they realize it's almost the only thing you get to think about when you're running is breathing, and so it really clears your head, so it's a great stress reliever for me. I love to read. I am a constant consumer of reading books, TV, magazines, all of that, because my mind is I am always going, but it feels very relaxing for me, actually. And I know when I need to take a step back. I always joke there isn't this whole balance thing. I don't believe in that. I think that there are times when you're really focused on your job. I think there are times you're really focused on your family. I think you're really focused on yourself, right? I actually had a surgery not that long ago, and guess what? I had to focus on myself, and I'm still doing that 3 months later because I'm saying, hey, I need to get completely whole again, and so I know that I have to take a step back on a few things, and so it's a lot of shifting priorities. And I don't volunteer for certain things when I realize I have to back off of it, and and then when I feel like I'm strong again, I will re-go there. So it's just kind of ups and downs of figuring that out and figuring out where you're comfortable at. My tolerance level is very different than someone else's. And I would tell people that if you can know where your tolerance level is, that's really important. Because I know what my breaking point is. And mine is completely different than yours and completely different than every other person out there.
Do you feel it in your body when what are your signals, I guess, that tells you, your red flags or your white flags saying it's time?
I think it's a combination of things. I think I get very short in my decision making, like too short, and I make decisions that I didn't think through all the way, and then I come back and see, oh, that wasn't a good decision. I didn't really think through something. I think physically, I start to feel tired all the time.
Right.
So then I go, oh, I got to change something, or I'm not eating well. I tend to, if I feel stressed, I might eat because I feel stressed. And so if I start to be making bad choices around anything I'm doing, I go, oh, okay, time out. I gotta pull it back a few notches. Good for you.
Good for you. And I totally agree with you that the balance, it's all life. That the art of work-life balance, it's all life. And if you can find that opportunity to focus on whatever area that you're on. There was a great TED Talk last year that was here in Denver, and that was the woman who did that talk that was what she was bringing forth was you have to, if you're going to go focus something on your kids, go focus on your kids and turn all the other elements off. or if you're going to be focused on this project at work, put your focus there, because the whole multitasking myth of I can multitask all day long is not always, doesn't always work. The multitasking gets messy for us.
Yeah, and I think some people are better at it than others. I had a mentor of mine recently say a lot of women try to manage that work-life balance on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
What we need to do is manage it over a lifetime, over our career.
Nice.
So over 30 years, did I, if I look back and go, how did I do with my kids? Oh, okay, I think over the 30 years I did pretty good. And then you look back at your career and say, I think I focused on the right things when I needed to. You look at your family, right? And you kind of look around, but it isn't a daily view. It's a long-term view of how did you do as a whole. Because there were certainly days where I only focused on, job. I was out of town. I wasn't available. Or days that, I decided I'm going to my kid's event, and I'm not going to work for that day because I'm going to go do this thing for, for the school. So I think that's really important.
Good, good, good. So what do you think your 70-year-old self would tell you today?
This came, I would say immediately what comes to my mind is enjoy the ride.
Good.
First of all, I'm a big car fan, so just thinking about the ride and enjoying it, it's fast, it's bumpy, it's busy, you got to slow down when you need to slow down. I mean, I think it's, if I look back, when I'm 70, I think I'll say, hey, did I enjoy that ride? Because some days it seems crazy, sometimes it seems too overwhelming. But I think when I look back and I maybe am a little more settled down than I am right now, maybe not so crazy, that's the things that I'll think about.
Okay, very good, very good. So my very favorite question that I've been saving for you is, what makes your heart sing and dance in your life today?
Well, of course, immediately I think of my family, right? So my family is, for me, still absolutely in the center of me. But right next to it is our company. I have a passion for building a company and having a team and building something that has a legacy that people will remember. And then right next to it, because I have kind of three legs, right next to it, I would say, is all the work I have done around women in leadership. I think that I will be able to look back and say, if I just touched, X number of women and I helped them make one little step forward that they might not have made prior, that will just, that feels awesome to me. I mean, I recently just had somebody send me an email out of the blue. She had attended one of our events in Arizona. She wanted to let me know that that event changed her life. One afternoon. That she changed her job. She went into a different field and now, of course, she said, of course, now I make twice as much money as I used to, because it wasn't like she was chasing it because of the money. She was chasing it because of what she wanted to do. And when she was in a room full of women that made her feel empowered to do it, she did it. How great is that, right?
Absolutely. There's nothing better.
When I hear that kind of story, I get thrilled. I just can't say enough about it.
Oh, that's it. That when you can make a difference in somebody's life and see that journey, and how thoughtful of her to reach out and let you know that you made that difference, right?
Oh, agreed. And you'd be surprised how many people actually do. I definitely. I had the dean of the women's college here in Colorado was a panelist one year, and later she ended up sending me a note from that event. 5 women went back to college.
Wow.
Right, it changed their life, and I'm always somewhat surprised that, hey, just this afternoon event can actually do that. That's how little, in a way, it actually might take. And I think sometimes people think it takes a lot of effort and time and energy, and it could be a conversation on a plane.
Right.
It could be anything. You could have had one conversation with somebody that might have been at the right time that totally affected them. So,
right.
I just love that.
Awesome. So we're going to open it up for some questions. And Lorraine, are you? Lorraine is my assistant who's online with us. Have you seen any questions come in?
Hi, Cami. Yes, I have. As a matter of fact, I have a question from Joyce, who wants to know Amy, what is the best piece of advice a mentor gave to you?
Oh, this is a good one. I would tell you, when I was working at a company in Chicago, and I was just crazy in my early 20s, and I had a boss who kind of stopped me and said, Amy, is anybody going to die over this? And it really made me pause, right? And I say that to people all the time when they're, getting all upset about a job or something at work or something that happened at home. And when you say it like that, and people go, oh, no, you're right. Like, even if I lose, if I lose my job, I'm not going to die over it. So, hey, it's not that bad. So really making me think about going back to is it really that bad, right? I try to teach that lesson to my kids all the time. When you're a teenager, everything seems very dramatic. And so I always am like, are you going to die over this? I'm like, no, all right, all right, Mom, I'm not. I get it, right? Okay, this isn't that big a deal. And so that one thing really helped drive the rest of my career in terms of trying to put things in perspective.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay. And any others, Lorraine?
Yes, actually, we have one from Stacy who wants to know, is there anything that you regret not doing in your career?
Well, first of all, my career's not over yet, so I think I still have some room to do a few things. Not yet. Our company isn't as big as I want it to be, so I'm not done there.
Okay, so you're going to make it bigger?
Yeah, maybe, make the legacy a little bit bigger. In terms of career, I think, at one point I wanted to be a CIO. I still toy with that maybe that'll be my what I call my retirement role, which CIOs would laugh if they heard that, right, because that's a pretty big job. But that's something I thought I wanted to do in my 20s, and I kind of took this path to consulting, and I do love consulting. Nothing dramatically. I wouldn't say that there's anything that I felt like I really missed out on anything.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Amy. And I have another question from Meg, and she says, I'd love to hear your perspective on always being on. Are there times that you don't respond to emails and text messages? And how do you set boundaries in your life?
That's a great question, because obviously when you own your own company, you are on most of the time. I set boundaries in that I will decide that maybe one night I'll spend the whole night catching up on email, but then I won't catch up kind of off hours the rest of the week. I monitor a lot of email, but that doesn't mean I respond to it. I've gotten, I just was on vacation, and I monitor my email, but I can tell you I probably spent out of 5 days working maybe an hour of those 5 days while I was off. So, part of it's about trusting other people, right? And I'm always like, I always tell people, trust and verify. And so I did some verifying while I was on vacation, because I like to do that, of course, but I definitely was trying to trust people to do what they needed to do. So I can do it. I also will tell you, though, I am a multitasker, and I'm still a firm believer you can do quite a bit of that. I can be at my son's track meet, and I can be checking email, and I'll respond to what I need to. If a call comes across and I see who it is and I need to talk to them, it doesn't matter where I'm at, I'll pick up the phone. And so that's good and bad, right? But I have flexibility, too, right? So if somebody says they need to talk to me at 6 o'clock at night, I say, okay, but then maybe in the middle of that day I'm actually going to an event of my child. So I kind of feel like the give and take of it, I don't ever really feel like I have to, shut down other than if I'm going on vacation. And at night, I obviously shut down for a few hours, but I tell you, as soon as I wake up, I'm on again. So, but I don't mind it. I guess really it's more about whether you actually mind it or not. I don't feel like it makes me feel stressed.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is that ability to be able to move back and forth between different roles and have that flexibility and decide when you want to do that throughout the day. I know as a business owner, that's a wonderful gift that you can set up for yourself, because it's, if you have to be there an 8 to 5 kind of thing versus having that flexibility to maneuver to different important areas of your life at any point, it's important.
And I would tell you, my opinion on that is that if you work for a company that you can't do that, it's the wrong company. And what I mean by that is I did have a friend who she's like, man, you volunteer at the school, you do all this stuff, how do you do it? I said, hey, volunteering at the school is a meeting on my calendar. Why can't it be a meeting on your calendar?
Right.
Said, because that's how you have to leverage all of that to make it work. But I definitely tell you, if you have a company who's, there are very specific roles that you couldn't do that. Say you're in customer service and you're on the phone, and you're meant to be on the phone 8 to 5, and you obviously can't just get up and go, go somewhere. But for most what I call office, white-collar positions, there's flexibility there. You're not trying to make you have flexibility. A lot of it's on us, where we say, we don't think we can do it, right? And it's if we test those waters, you'd be surprised at how many things you actually can do, because at the end of the day, you're way happier, and you're a way better producer because you have the flexibility anyway. So I would question almost all companies that don't say, hey, in kind of your normal Monday through Friday deal, if you need some flexibility, if you're getting the job done, who cares? I always tell people here when they come to work for me, I say, I don't care if you do this work on your head, upside down, laying in bed, however you get it done. But if it gets done and it gets done really well, excellent. I'm all happy. Now, the minute it isn't getting done well, of course, I'm all over it, right? And then pull it all back, right? You got to pull it back. But I think, especially, and that's, I think, a lot of with the consulting industry, we think all the time. Thinking can be done anywhere, right? So I would definitely try to get in an environment where that works for you.
In fact, I think the thinking, some of our best thinking can be done outside of the general office. I mean, one of my favorite mentors of all time once told me that I needed to be out of the office for 4 hours a week, where I could just go focus on strategy. I needed to be away from the phone and the emails and have that. And I looked at him like he was crazy, because I thought, who has time I don't have time to be gone for 4 hours. And I didn't always have that space and time to be able to do that every week. But I can tell you that some of the best ideas and the most innovative thinking that I did happened when I was sitting out on my deck of my home outside in nature, away from the noise of other things going on.
Yeah, agreed. I definitely try to actually, we obviously have an office. I try to home office at least one day a week.
Good for you.
And it lets me get my head wrapped around things I need to focus on. It could be strategy, it could be sales, it could be marketing, it could be a lot of different things. But I do try to one day a week not be in the office, where I can kind of do that without that interruption, or I can decide how much I want to have, right? Or I'll just turn my, I won't go into email for 3 hours so that it forces me to do that. Because believe me, if somebody needs you, they'll
find you.
They're going to call you, right?
They're like trying every way that they need. But
I actually had a speaker who she told us that when she went on vacation, she tried one year, she came back and she just deleted all of her email that had been there during her vacation. Hey, if I don't have people who can do this job while I'm not here, I'm not a good leader. And she did it. And I haven't quite been able to go that crazy far yet, but I love the idea, right? Like if you're a leader, you should be able to walk away, and if you're not, then you need to keep working on who can fill in your, and behind you. So it's a pretty bold move. I say it every time, and people all just go, oh my gosh, I don't think I could do it. But she's like, hey, if it was important, they called me, or they would email me again, or they would get back to me again and say what's going on. But, she deleted all of her email during her vacation. It was crazy.
Oh, wow. That was brave. But you're right.
Very brave.
She had people there that she trusted, so that's awesome.
That's absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. So are there any more questions from online or any else?
Yes, just actually one more question that we have from Stephanie. Stephanie wants to know, Amy, what do you do as far as your personal development, especially in a field like technology where things are constantly changing?
I get it in a bunch of ways. First of all, I usually pick one conference a year that I go just to sit and listen. I actually participate in a lot of conferences where I facilitate panels, or if I'm facilitating a panel, by default it forces me to go out and do some research. And then, oh, by the way, I learn from the panel. I have so many people that I know in the industry now that I'm constantly reaching out to them, going, what's going on? What's going on in the industry? You know, what's the new thing that you hear about? And so I'm constantly reading. I read an enormous amount. I'm constantly hooked in social media kinds of things, LinkedIn groups. I'm constantly scanning things that are sent to me. So I really have a pretty broad base of that, and try to consume, you know, some new idea every day at least.
Nice, nice. Well, Amy, our time's about up. I want to thank you for sharing all of your inspiration and wisdom with us. I just really appreciate you taking time today out of your busy schedule and sharing just some of your stories.
Well, I'm so excited you asked me to, to be interviewed, and I think what you're trying to do is awesome. I think that, again, even if you reach one person from this one talk, it was worth the time, right? And so the fact that you're trying to build a whole ongoing conversation for women to feel like they have a place to go, it's great, because I think we have to challenge every way we used to always do it, right? I think we have to get it from a snippet in a webcast. We have to get it from a conversation on the plane. We have to get it because we proactively do it in in other ways. We have to go to our network, and so I think everything we can do, you can never do too much. So I'm totally excited that you're doing this. So I, of course, was jumping up and down to, of course, be your first interview. So I appreciate you asking me.
I thank you so much. So there is, as Amy mentioned, this is the first of a series. And Lorraine, if you'll flip that slide, one more slide, we've got 3 more interviews in the next 3 weeks coming up. Next week is with Gail, who's the founder and owner of Tallgrass Spa, which is a wonderful spa here in Colorado for anyone who has had an opportunity to be there. On May 6th, we have Jandel Davis, who's the Vice President of Government and External Relations at Kaiser Permanente. And then on May 13th, we have Meg VanderLaan, who's the Chief Communications Officer for MWH Global. So I really look forward to these upcoming interviews. We also have a series of events that I'm so excited about. It's part of this whole Extraordinary Women Connect series. And again, it's just about bringing great women together to share in story and share in connections and support. And for additional information on any of those events, they're going to be, some of them will be in nature, some of them will be at an art gallery, some of them will be in cause, where we're actually on a team to support some good causes, and even in leadership. And the leadership one is actually an equine-guided leadership retreat. So the horses will get to play in the wisdom sharing at that event. So if you'd like to learn more about that, please visit my website, which is www.syzygy, syzygy-co.com, and look under the calendar to find any of the Extraordinary Women Connect series that we have coming up. And again, Amy, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.